Hello, home ec students. It's been one more day talking about dining etiquette and some of the um, vocabulary that maybe the films you watched didn't mention. So just a few quick things, and then your table place setting will be due today, this week, as soon as you can get me a picture that you know how to set a formal place setting, as well as do some type of flower arrangement as a centerpiece. Tableware is all of the items used that you set the table. That includes all the glassware and dinnerware, as well as the tablecloths and the centerpieces. All of that would be considered tableware. Crockery is any types of items that are made of ceramic, as opposed to porcelain or fine china. Fine bone china would be different from crockery. When you set a table, you can optionally use a centerpiece. If you do have a centerpiece, you don't want it to be so tall as to obstruct the view of other diners. So be careful about that. You can use a tablecloth. Just make sure it fits the table and you don't have long ends draping out to cause someone to stumble or have too much tablecloth when they sit down. You also can use placemats, but these things are optional. They make the table look more attractive and fun. So if you have them, by all means, use them. The place setting is where an individual sits. This is also known as a cover. And so this would include all the dinnerware, the plates and cups and bowls. The flatware would be your silverware, and glassware would be any type of glasses, wine, water, tea glasses would be different types of glassware. The space is usually, for your place setting, 20 to 24 inches. So that gives you room to comfortably sit. If you're at a formal dinner and there are lots of people next to you, you should have enough space to eat comfortably and to have all of your silverware there. Your place setting can be simple or informal, and it will only use a single fork, knife, and spoon. Most of our family meals are just simple, informal meals. If you have a formal dinner, you're going to use multiple settings, multiple silverware settings, several forks and spoons for the courses. And so, again, the silverware is based on the order of service, whatever you're being served first. That silverware will be on the outside, and then you will use the additional silverware as you work your way in. If you're setting a formal dinner, you only set the silverware that you need. When you're serving a meal, there are multiple ways that you can choose to serve, depending on what's comfortable for you and for your guests. The family style is where you would set place settings for each person, and then the serving bowls would come with the food in them and be passed around the table. Typically you want to go in one direction. My mother would always get frustrated when we would start the vegetables and the meat going in different directions. If you go in one direction, then it's easier for everyone to be served. It's a self-serving style. The advantages of this are you only take what you think you might want. The disadvantages of this are, as your food is on the table in bowls, it can cool quickly and not stay warm as if it were on the stove. Also, the disadvantages is someone might take more than they think they want. Eyes are bigger than your stomach, and it can be an overeating or wasting food. So that's one of the ways most families bring the things to the table and pass it around. It's one way you can do it. Plate service is when plates are brought to the table already served. This is how most restaurants would plate your food and bring it to you. Sometimes at a dinner party or having guests, they might choose to do this as well. The exception would be salad. Salad would come to the table in a bowl and be passed around so that people could help themselves to the salad. But the main course, the dinner, and the vegetables would be plated. The third style is buffet, where you have the food at a separate table, and the dinner guests they sit down to their place setting, and then with their plate, they go and serve themselves a few at a time. A fourth way that you can serve a meal is that the head of the table has all the dinner plates in front of him, and so he carves the meat and serves the plates, and then those plates are passed out. This would be for maybe a real special occasion or a formal dinner. I've seen that. I've seen it in movies as well. I don't think I've maybe been to one dinner where the food was served this way. It is kind of a nice way for someone to serve you and to hand your plate to you. When you clear the table, you always want to start with the serving dishes if you're hosting the meal for someone and you have guests. And as you begin to remove those dishes, start with the serving dishes first. As you remove the plates, you want to remove them from the person's left so as not to hit elbows with them. And so with your left hand, you would grab the plate and then remove it and hand it to your right hand and take it to the kitchen if you're right-handed. Only remove one place setting at a time. If you're picking up silverware, you want to put them on the plate and carry them. I've heard it's bad manners to stack up plates or to rake food out at the table. You just want to remove them and take them to the table. I will include a video of a state dinner at the White House. They have beautiful tableware and fine china, and they set the table in a magnificent way so that I'm sure the guests feel very honored and enjoy such a special evening. You see how that is done. A few other rules of etiquette that were not mentioned that I came across to mention is that if you are served bread, that you should only butter a small piece of it, tear a piece off, and then butter that. You should, as you serve yourself with your fork, you should eat all the food that you put on your fork. And so don't bite food from your fork and leave part of it on your fork. I guess that's considered bad manners. In other words, only take small bites with your fork so that you can eat all that at a time. It's also considered rude to blow on your food if it's too hot. Wait for it to cool before you try to eat it. That kind of makes sense. You don't want people blowing their germs across the table. Your knife and fork, again, go not back in the table where you found them, but once you have used the silverware, it should always stay on the plate and not go back to the table. Offer food to others before you serve yourself. Wait for the host to start. I think we mentioned that. If you want something that's out of reach, then ask the person to pass it to you. And so why do we have table manners? One of the questions that I asked you last week, why do you need to use and practice good table manners? And many students said, so it makes me look good. Well, that's part of it, but you really are wanting to be focused on other people and showing them respect and consideration. You want them to enjoy their meal and not be grossed out or uncomfortable because of your bad table manners. So it's a consideration, it's a thinking of others. No, not every dinner has to be formal and practice amazing etiquette, but consideration and kindness as you would serve others and showing hospitality to them. Hospitality is a gift that ministers to many people. My mother practiced it. We always had people in our home for a simple meal. We didn't have formal fancy dinners, but she would always cook and invite people over. And many people throughout my life have talked about being in our home and having my mother's home cooked meals and her fresh made biscuits and desserts. She was kind of known for that. But it was a ministry to them. It brought them a special sense of care for them. And so I encourage you to think about learning to do that when you have your own home. Bring people in and minister to them through showing them that you care, fixing a meal for them and making it a little bit special and enjoyable. It really does make a difference. I was going to tell you a story today. As we had a storm last night, thankfully I didn't hear of much damage being done, but when I went to walk on our road, which we live in the woods, a very large tree had fallen across the road, and so we weren't planning on going anywhere. We're quarantined here at the house for the most part. But thankfully, our neighbor is Davy Crockett. Not really. His actual name is Stephen, but I think he collects chainsaws, and so he was able to come and chop up the tree for us and help clear the road. Tonight, my husband was outside walking, and he came in and said, "You've got to come and see this." And it was pretty spectacular. The tree had fallen because it had rotted from the inside, and something on the inside that had hollowed it out was glowing in the dark. It was really amazing. I don't know if it was a fungus or what. So if you know what that is, it was really crazy. It was like glow in the dark. And so, Chris, maybe you know what that is. You can inform me. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so our living in the woods full of nature encounters are pretty amazing. Anyway, so be sure that you have set your table and done your flower arrangement. Send me pictures of those, and sooner rather than later. For classes 7 and 2, it's due today. And then class 4, I think it's due by Friday, because we're a little bit behind. But anyways, we'll figure out, moving on to the next section. I'd like us to try some sewing themes. I'm not quite sure how to do that yet. I may try to explore putting together packets for you to pick up at school or see what you have at home. So we'll see. We'll figure that out. All right, so that's your assignment for today. I'll include this little video on looking at the White House State Dinner. I just think it's kind of fun. It's like a minute. It's optional. You know, if you're not interested in seeing a formal dinner there, then you don't have to watch it. But I did want you to learn about those vocabulary words. Okay, see you tomorrow.